Is your fiddle leaf fig missing leaves at the base of its trunk? Is the bottom of your fiddle leaf fig looking a little bare? Don't worry, I've got you covered. In this video, I'll show you a simple step-by-step method to get your fiddle leaf fig looking lush and full again. This is my fiddle leaf fig Bambino. It's a fiddle leaf fig with tiny, tiny leaves. Now, my fiddle leaf fig has lost its leaves at the bottom, and a lot of it has got to do with the fact that those leaves were just old and they fell off. So in this video, I'm going to give this fiddle leaf fig some rehab. I want it to look beautiful again. I want it to be a full and lush plant, and more importantly, I want to get rid of this. So I decided to air layer my plant. And air layering is a process where you force the plant to create roots while the plant is still attached to the main plant. So now I put some sphagnum moss, moist sphagnum moss, around this stem. I made a little bit of a cut and I put the sphagnum moss there, and I have been keeping it moist for a number of weeks, and I am now going to open it to see what has happened with my stem. So yeah, I'm really hoping that roots have formed. So I've got this plastic sheet there just to, I am liking that. The fact that this is a ball is looking good, and you can see those roots over there. Those are roots that have formed from the stem, and that is telling me that this plant is ready. The top bit of this plant is ready to be removed from this bit of the plant, and this plant is actually going to survive. I have my shears. I've sterilized these shears, and I am going to make a cut just below there. Because remember, this root system is over there. So I'm not cutting at the top because otherwise I'll get rid of that. So, okay, I have my plant here, and I am going to make a cut on the diagonal and just separate this top part of the plant from the bottom part. Away I go. Oh, that is quite hard. That is quite hard. Oh, it's very woody. Oh, there we go. There we go. So I now have this bit and that bottom bit. Not too sure what I'm going to do with that, but here we go. I'm really, really happy with this. What I will now do is just go outside and give this a wash to get rid of all that perlite and sphagnum moss, and I'll come show you what it looks like in a second. Okay, I am back from outside, and that's the root system of my plant there. I'm very, very happy with that. Look at those roots. They look really, really healthy. I've got quite a number of points where the roots came from. So it's not just one root coming from one point. There's a lot of them. I'm really, really happy with this. The next stage of this process is I'm actually going to sit this plant out. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want this woody stem to callus over. If I put this plant right now into my leca or my solution or anything, even potting mix or soil, what might end up happening is this wound here might get infected, but then also it might start to rot, and that will undo everything that I've done, and my plant is going to die. So, and I know a few people actually put things like super glue on there. A few people put, like, there's a waxy substance you can put on there. There's a lot of things you can do to actually callus over and close that wound, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let it air dry, and that'll form a callus around it, and then I'll be able to pot up my plant when that's all ready. So I'll see you then. Okay, so it's been probably over 24 hours since I sorted out my plant and I removed it from the root system. As you can see, it's looking a bit limp. So yeah, life took over and I just didn't have time. But what I do want to show you is how that stem is now just completely dry. It is really wooden and it is completely calloused over. But there's one thing I should mention though. So in my haste to actually see what the root system was looking like, I actually took the sphagnum moss off the roots before I let the stem callus over. I really should have done that the other way around, but I was so curious to see what was happening. So in an ideal situation, you want to clip the plant off the whole root system, clip that off, let that callus over before you open up that root ball and investigate. But I think my plant is going to be okay, and it forgives me. It just has to. It has no choice. I'm going to put my plant in my naked root planter. That's the inner pot. This is the cash pot. So I'll put the cash pot away, and I'll put a little bit of leca in that. This is some leca that I prepared earlier. It's been soaking for not less than 24 hours. So I'll put some leca there. So that's chopped about, that much. Now I'll put that to the side for 1 sec. So remember how I said I want my plant to be bushy, right? So I have some cuttings. I love this one. I think I might put this one in. Look at this. This is the main stem over here. And then this is the point where I cut it, and it's developed that other stem over there. So it's branching. That looks really, really nice. Now I want to show you what the root system is doing. So this is the root system of my cuttings. Now I want to draw your attention to these nodules that are on here, those white bits of there. So these white bits are called root primordial. So that's where the root actually stems from. And when you put your cutting in water or whatever solution you put it in for the first time, that's what you start to see first. You see all those bumps and you're thinking, what the heck is happening to my plant? Is my plant dying? Does it have an infection? That's what you start to see before those lovely roots come out. All right, so let us see how this is going to work. This is good. This is actually good. See how my plant starts to, I've broken that off, which is okay because it's looking a bit yellow. I think it was going to leave anyway. I think I might take this one off as well, to be honest. Yeah, let's just start off on a really good place. That looks good. That really looks good in terms of the way I want my plant to look. So let's see where I can place this one. I'll probably place this one here, but that means, hang on, go over there. I'll get rid of this leaf because that is just in the way. It's too close to the root, so I'll get rid of that one. Let's see how that little one goes. I'll get rid of this one as well. This is a damaged leaf anyway. So remember how I said I actually damaged my plant? I did some chemical damage to it, and this is why I actually ended up chopping it up. So these are one of the damaged leaves. So I'll just get rid of that, and then I'll have that. Yes, let's do that. So this one will go over here. This one will go over here, and the main plant will go over there. I like it. That is what my plant looks like. I'm really happy with that positioning. Maybe scooch that a little bit more. So I've got one plant over here, I've got another plant over here, and I've got this one right in the middle. And it's a bit limp because it's a little bit dry, and we all know why. So I'll now put this in my cash pot, which is where? Right. So this is my little cash pot, and I've got that in there. In my little beautiful watering can, I have my special sauce, which is made up of my Clonix Clone solution and my root zone. I'm doing this just to continue supporting those roots until the plant is robust enough, which will probably be in about 2 weeks or so. And then I'll switch over from this to Foliage Focus. So I'm going to put my solution through this little watering hole that they suggest, and as I'm doing that, I can actually see the level, or maybe you can even put your little finger to see how far up that is going. It's going, still going. Oh, still a ways. It's quite a big reservoir. I think my little watering can is about 500. Let me see. It doesn't tell me how many mils this is. I don't know, 350, 500? But that's about there. And that is my plant over there. I think this Bambino is going to do really well. So I'm going to put it in a bright, warm spot and just let that plant recover. And I'll show you what it looks like in a few weeks so that you can see that this actually worked. Doesn't that look so much better than the way it looked before? I'll see you in a few weeks. It's been 62 days since I put my fiddle leaf fig in leca. So today I'm going to show you how that plant is doing, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret on how I kept my delicate leaves from falling off my plant. This is my fiddle leaf fig today. I think she looks absolutely stunning, still living in her naked root planter, and those are the cuttings on either side of the bigger plant. I'm really happy with how things have turned out. She's been in this pot for 2 months now, and I think it's safe to say that the plant is surviving and is doing well. Look at those gorgeous new leaves over there. The plant is just looking so fantastic. Now you might remember my plant was looking a little bit limp when I removed the air-layered portion of the plant from the main plant. And later on in this video, I'm going to show you how I overcame that and made sure that those leaves that were looking pretty sad are looking good now. But before I do that, I want to show you what the root system of this plant looks like. It's very obvious to me that this plant has rooted. And one of the ways that I know that the root system of the plant is really going is, of course, because the leaves are looking fantastic. But when I touch this plant, when I move the stems, it's not as shaky as it used to be when I just put it in that leca. So that says to me that those roots have grown, they've interwoven in the leca, turning that whole system into one big mass, and that's why it's not shaky. But now I'm going to pick it up and show you what they look like. Look at that. Look at those roots over there. That looks absolutely fantastic. The roots are coming through those little slits of that naked root planter, and they are just thriving. There's a little bit of a root there on that side as well. I think this plant is just doing so beautifully. And while I've got it up here, give you a close-up of the cutting. So this is one of the cuttings that I put in there. That's one of the original leaves, and you can see how that's still quite big. That's a new one. It's a bit of a smaller leaf, and you can see over there that there's some new growth coming through as well. And this one over here, this is another cutting, original leaf, and there is what's coming through as well. So all in all, I think this plant is doing really well. This plant is looking good, right? But looking at the main plant, you can see that there's a bit of a bare stem situation going on here, which when you think to this to yourself is exactly what I was trying to prevent. But yeah, something happened, and you know what that is. Remember when I made that mistake where I actually removed the air-layered portion of the plant from the main plant too early? I think some of those leaves just were too far gone and they dropped off, and there was just no saving them. But there were some other leaves that I actually plucked off the plant because they were looking, you know, they were quite old and they were probably going to drop off anyway. So all in all, this is probably not the look you'd be going for if you were just having your plant as a single plant, as one stem in there. If I were doing this again, I would be a lot more rigorous with the air layering for this top bit over here, and making sure that when I cut the plant off that's air layered from the mother plant, that I still keep that root ball intact before I wash it off. That's definitely what I recommend that you do. But I'm not too fussed about this because in as much as this plant is a little bit bare, it's got this other plant here and another plant here. So as these plants grow together, there'll be leaves coming from this plant, there'll be leaves coming from this plant. So this won't remain a bare patch for too much longer. So I'm pretty confident that that can be salvaged. But if I did decide that I really don't like the look of this, I could always air layer it again. I could air layer it here and just go with this plant and completely discard the rest of that. Or I could even just have that portion of the plant grow me some leaves again. So there's a few things you can do to counteract that, but the focus of this video really was the air layering aspect and what you can do with that. Now let's talk about leaf health. Let's talk about how I was able to salvage those very limp looking leaves in order for them to sustain and look as beautiful as they do today. Now you will know that new leaves on a plant are very, very vulnerable and they're very delicate. So any changes that you make to a plant when it's got little new leaves, those leaves are at risk. And it showed in my plant, because when I did the whole removing of the plant from the main plant thing, those leaves were like, oh, they were not happy. And I waited for about 24 hours to see if things would perk up. They didn't. And at that point, I knew I needed to do something. And I used a household item that you have in your home, that everybody has in their home, to help me fix the problem. This trusty Ziploc bag came to the rescue. All I did was open up my Ziploc bag and I shoved my leaves in there and I closed the bag at the bottom. I just got some tape, cello tape, anything, whatever you can use to close it up there, so that you've got a climate in there. The humidity becomes very, very high within that bag, and by doing that, it actually helps support the leaves before the roots kick in. So one of the functions of the roots for any plant is to transmit water and nutrients from where they are, which is in the soil, in the reservoir, up to the rest of the plant. Now, when those roots are still quite juvenile, you've done a major transfer and things, they're not working at their optimal level. So the leaves at the top of the plant starts to suffer, and that's where this bag comes in. And it doesn't even have to be a Ziploc bag. It can be any kind of bag that you put in there that is increasing the humidity in there. And literally within 48 hours, those leaves were perked, they were looking happy. I took the bag off and here we are today. Now I know you guys love fiddle leaf figs. Watch this next video where I show you how I transition my extra large fiddle leaf fig from living in potting mix to thriving in leca. I'll see you there.